Okay, hi guys. Today I'm going to show you how to do a bound buttonhole, also called French buttonhole. So it looks like a little welt pocket, but of course it's an opening, so there's no pocket bag, and you need a finishing for the inside also. So of course when you measure the size of your buttonhole, you must consider the diameter of your button and the thickness of your button to make sure you could go through. The width should be about 3 millimeter for each of the little lips or the welt. So for a total of 6 millimeter. For this exercise, I suggest you do a practice before doing it on your real garment. So you must cut 2 square of 15 by 15. Trace your center front. Oh, this is my seam allowance. You need 2 of them because one you'll use it as the self, so the top part of your garment, and one you'll use as your facing, so for the inside. So place your buttonhole. Like I said, I use a 6 millimeter hole. You could see my hole. And the diameter of my button plus 3 millimeter towards the overlap. So here's my overlap. Also, you're going to need a smaller piece to do the welt. So I cut one in self and 2 in fusing that I recut in half after. To start, first you should place your fabric face to face. Then I'm going to flip it. So these are my good side of fabric. We're going to work facing and garment at the same time. So here's my facing and this is my garment. So as I'm going to place my pattern over my fabric and use one of the little fusing that I have and put it under where you're going to have your opening. So something like that will do. So just make sure you're going to grab the area of your hole. For the facing, you're going to flip your pattern. As you could see, the other side is French because I'm now teaching in French. So the other side, you're going to place another of the little fusible face to face with the good side of the fabric. Again, the area of your buttonhole. I suggest for this one you get the cotton fusible. It's much easier to manipulate, much easier for you, but I didn't have the black one, so I will do it still in the white so you could see, but it's fusible. Or you could use lining or self fabric if you have a thin fabric for this one on the facing. So when your pieces are placed, you're going to grab the third piece of fusible and your small piece of fabric. On the wrong side, you're going to put it across right in the middle and fuse it. You take your little piece and you place it face to face with your garment. Then you take your pattern again, or your sloper. You must secure your fabric together. So I'm going to put 2 little pins. So you take your sloper, you put it back right over, and using a sharp fabric pen or chalk, you're going to trace. And on this one, so you could see that on cotton, you're going to see it much better. Okay, so I'm going to sew my rectangle, and if you notice right now, I'm going to start like in the middle of the long side of the rectangle, so I don't have to tack at the corner because it has to be really accurate. Also, you should set your machine at the small stitch. So I'm going to sew. Smaller the stitch, easier it is to stay accurate. And take your time, because this is going to determine the whole buttonhole. Take your time, straight line. If you need half stitch at the corner, you do your half stitch. And it's good to count for the small size, and you do exactly the same amount of stitch when you get to the other side. And you turn, and you just go over a few stitch. So I have light thread, but I hope you could see. That's where I start and that's where I finish. So they just overlap a bit. I don't have to back tack. And again, I'm starting like in the middle of the rectangle. 1, 2, 3, 4. You could fold your fabric and fusible, fold the whole thing, cut in the middle. Also try to be as accurate as you can. If you want, you could trace a line in the middle before. You cut straight in the middle until, let's say, 5 millimeters from the side of the rectangle, and then you're going to do a little dovetail, so triangle until as far as you can, and all corners. So you could use the wrong side here, the wrong side of the fabric. Cut in the middle. And then to 5 millimeters and the little dovetail. Remove your pins and push the fusible on the facing, push it inside, and work the corner. Working the corner, see, it makes little pleats, so you just pull it and twist it. That's working it, so it open a bit the wave of the thread of the fabric, and it gets in place. Just work it like that. Okay, same thing for this one, so you push it inside, and always make a practice before, so you decide what you're going to use to do your work. So you work the corner, and it gets flat. So now first you could try to glue the little seam allowance to the fusing, so very delicate, but you could try just with the tip of your iron. Already it's opening the seam, so it might help you. So just then from the top you're gonna go one by one. Make sure in that case my white fusible doesn't show, and you fuse the 4 sides one at a time, trying to hide your fusible as much as you can. So you could pull a tiny little bit from the under and fuse. Okay, so for the garment itself, we're going to press the little seam allowance, but this time we're going to press it open. So you see a tiny little seam allowance. Now you only see my fusing. I'm going to open my tiny 3 millimeter seam allowance and press it open. It looks delicate, but it's not as hard as it looks like. So you press it open, and I suggest you also press the rest of the little square. It's going to help you later on to do your lips. So this is one. I'm going to turn it and do the second one. So again, you're going to fold your fabric of the square over the seam allowance. So it should be your 3 millimeter, and it should be half the welt. Like that. And same thing for this side, so open seam and press it. So before pressing this one, you might want to see what it's going to look like, so turn it around and check to see if the size of your welt is going to look okay. So if it's pretty much okay, you could go and press. So make sure that they both touch. Same. If you see you have a little difference, you press, but you could still manage to change the width of the welt. They were okay, but let's say I just need to secure it now. So I'm going to lift one side and tack my ducktail. To do that, you pull on the fabric itself, never on the tail. Tuck that tiny ducktail, only the ducktail. So I went back and forth for 6 millimeter. Here's one. Same thing on the other side. So you see my work. So you side of the fabric and wrong side of the fabric. So we have two more side to tack because my lips, they're still open. So I'm going to secure both sides, and I like to do it from the inside. Some people, they stitch in the ditch, but I'd rather do it from the inside and keep it all clean without any top stitch. So hold the little lips and lift the fabric again, and you're going to stitch. Remember, we opened the seam. One is going towards the lip and one stays out, so that's what you're going to sew, the little tiny seam allowance. This one here, you're going to sew it down. No back tack. Remember, we have tiny little stitch at 1 millimeter, so I think there's no use of back tacking. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. We do the other side. So now, because I just have the thread cutter, I'm going to remove a little bit of the excess to make sure I'm not going to grab it into my seam. This one here, to assemble facing and so. You put your piece face to face. You put your stitch of the machine back at the normal position. For me, it's like a 2.5. I have a 1 centimeter seam allowance, so I'm going to sew at 1. Sew at 1. And open and understitch on the facing. That means at 1 millimeter with the seam allowance on the facing side. Okay, so I did my pressing for the facing. Seam allowance is hiding now. So I just need to secure the facing with the little buttonhole. I'm going to remove the excess as much as you wish. And then you place it over and pin. So I'm using a contrasting thread, but you must use a matching thread so it doesn't show at all. As you could see, this is my facing side with the top stitch, so you don't see nothing at all. That's the main idea. So you go between the layers and you bring the thread outside. This part, again, a little bit of the welt and only the fabric. A little bit of the welt and just the top part. That might be hard to see. So like that, if you could see, I had a little bit of white. I don't have any hiding your fusing. So you go all around and your buttonhole is done. So you could now test it, see if you figure out the right measurement. Here you go. Have fun.